Miller, the owner of 37 Hawthorne Avenue in Morris Plains. This is our application for the subject property for 2 front yard variances, one for the house and one for the garage, and a related accessory structure variance for the garage. This is a corner lot, so it makes sense to everybody why there are 2 front yard variances. So there are 2 front yard setbacks. We will provide testimony tonight from Paul Anderson, our engineer planner, regarding his analysis for the granting of such variances. We'd like to offer background information. You'd like to have Mr. Anderson sworn in. I believe he's testified here before.
Yeah, you want to call him now?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I want Mr. Anderson, why don't you step up? Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and business address.
Paul W. Anderson, 40 Miller Drive, Newton, New Jersey.
Mr. Anderson, you testified before this board as a professional engineer and been accepted as an expert, correct?
And a planner, yes.
And planner also. And your licenses are in good standing?
They are.
Does the board need to go any further, or can we accept it based on this?
Thank you. Turn this microphone.
Just a quick procedural thing. Would you rather have him sit here? He's going to be testifying a lot more.
Usually there's a microphone over there.
Usually there is, but there isn't any microphone.
Or can we move this over there and we can
Yeah,
both
but-
sit there?
Oh, that would be
Does that
perfect.
work?
Yeah, that'll be better, thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Just try to keep the papers involved.
Yes. That could be your statement.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. So I have here on the easel the plans that were submitted, one on front, one on back, but there's no modifications, so I don't, we can check them as an exhibit if you'd like.
You do not need to mark them if you haven't altered them from this most recent submission.
No alteration. All right, so this is 39, excuse me, 39 Hawthorne Avenue,
37.
block
37.
30, all right. 37 Hawthorne Avenue, block 38, lot 102, is a 7,431 square foot lot located in the R3 zone. It's on the corner of Hawthorne, this is along the bottom of the sheet, and Carlisle, which runs vertically, and on the other frontage. So it has 2 front yards. This was subject of a subdivision at the planning board that was approved last year, I believe. And it created this new lot from the parent lot, which included the house to the left. As a result, there is no land around it that can be purchased to make this lot larger, more conforming. The applicant is seeking for the approval for a house on this property that someone will build. They're not builders themselves. They're trying to get a variance for a house approved so that somebody knows how big of a house can be built there. They had a purchaser that walked away from a deal when they found out that he had to build a 17-foot wide house that was 70 feet long in order to, and it was looking unusual. So this variance, it requires, this application requires front yard relief from the setback on Carlisle. It meets the front yard requirement on Hawthorne, and that is a fairly typical location, a typical way to deal with this in the zone. If I flip to this is the S2 drawing in my set. There are several street intersections that have lots with 2 front yards. And I have counted in this vicinity, almost immediately within this 500-foot radius, one outside, 7 locations where the house meets the front yard setback on one side, but is deficient of it significantly on the other side. That includes directly across the street and at the end of the block on Carlisle, on this lot here, on Sunset, these 2 lots on Homer Avenue, and these 2 lots here on the other side of Homer. So they're kind of sentinels at the end of the street, where you have 2 front yards, and you still have a 50-foot wide lot, and you can't, there's not enough room to build a house that's representative size for this neighborhood. It's not, it's something that'll be deem as a normal house for the neighborhood. So the setbacks on those lots, in no particular order, range between 5 and 14 feet. There's one that's 5 feet, two of them that are 6 feet, one that's 8 feet, one's 9, one's 10, and one's 14. The applicant is looking for a setback of 14 and a half feet. So it's just slightly more than the ones that are already there in the neighborhood. It's a prevalent condition. Now, with the second setback we're looking for is for the garage. I'm going to flip back to S1, the set, and we propose a garage. The ordinance requires that we have a garage as part of the application. And we propose it with entrance on Carlisle and a 21-foot driveway and a normal size 2-car garage. In order to make that fit and to provide a rear yard of 8 feet here and a side yard of 8 feet there, which I feel is appropriate. I think that one of them is actually more than the zoning requires, but I think the rear yard is allowed to be something like 5. But since the side yard here is technically, looks like a side yard to this neighbor, I made it 8. But in order to do that, we have 21 foot setback, 21.1 feet is the setback required. So those are the 2 front yard variances that we are seeking relief for.
So Mr. Anderson, we give you 2 front yard setbacks from Carlisle. That detached garage, the rear and the side yard setbacks are conforming, is that correct?
That's correct. All of the other setbacks for both the house and the garage are conforming. The house itself is conforming in size in terms of floor area. The impervious coverage is under what is permitted in the zone by, I believe, 1,000 feet. There was one of the comments from Liz, I believe, that said, where the air conditioners, they could be 10, 15 feet for an air conditioner here and there, and I'm still not even close to meeting that requirement. I think that can be done in the construction department. It won't create any new relief. There's plenty of additional impervious available for this lot for things like air conditioners, small deck, and things like that. So when you get down to the planning elements of this, I think these variances are justified with the C1 criteria. The narrowness of this lot creates a particular hardship when you have 2 front yard setbacks. This is the middle of the block, it wouldn't be the same thing. You'd build this house normally. But because we have 2 front yards, it creates a hardship. I think we're trying to get approved a house that is similar in size to the other homes in the neighborhood. So I think that's a positive element. It also meets some of the elements of C2. So, I think it promotes purpose of zoning E and G. It's appropriate population density with single-family home in the single-family neighborhood, appropriate size home, meeting all the density requirements. And purpose G, for the town to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for residential uses. And with this being infill development, not requiring any new streets, any new utilities to be built or maintained, I think that it meets purpose G also. And then it also meets the purpose of the master plan, preserving and protecting the suburban character of the existing residential neighborhood by building a house that is very much like the other homes in the neighborhood and not some unusual shape just to conform to a zoning number. In terms of the negative criteria, I think the project meets that one goal of the master plan, so I don't see any substantial impact on the master plan or the zone ordinance. And with regard to the second prong of the negative criteria, since you have the 7 other lots that are doing exactly the same as what we're proposing here to the board this evening, I don't think there's a significant deviation from or impact to the adjoining neighbors either with this setback variance relief. So I think the board can grant the variances for this application without any substantial detriment to the zone plan, the ordinance, or the neighborhood involved.
Mr. Anderson, let me just ask you a question. I just want to make sure I understood. You indicated that there's 7 homes in the immediate area that have front yard setbacks ranging from 5 to 14 feet measured to the home. Is that correct?
From the property line to the home, correct. Based on the tax map, on the S2 drawing, or S2 drawing that I have, which superimposes the tax maps. It's not a surveyed setback. If I said 6 feet, it could be 6.5 or 7 feet, but generally speaking, they're very close to what it actually is. Conforming on one side, non-conforming on the second street.
Are all 7 of those homes corner lots?
Yes, they are. They're all exactly the same circumstances that we're looking at this evening for this lot.
So like you said, the 14.5 and the 21.1, that's all in Carlisle, correct?
That's correct.
Setback from Hawthorne is fine. It's
Yes,
conforming.
that's conforming.
Okay.
So that the street line coming down Hawthorne would be in conformance. And most of the houses in the neighborhood do conform very closely to that. It's not in and out.
And to the next house, the 39,
Yes,
it's 8 feet, right? That's conforming.
yes, that is conforming.
Side yard.
Side yard, yes.
To your point, if this was one front and then Carlisle was the other side, it was 8 feet. If you
Yes.
didn't, right,
Correct.
I'm thinking about it in simplistic terms.
Yeah,
Okay,
if
that
this was a lot in the middle of the block, you're right, the setback would be about 8 feet on the other side yard, and you would have a 14-foot setback, so this would easily
Right.
fit.
Do the professionals have questions for this witness?
I have none.
I have a couple. Did you look, when you're talking about the setbacks, what are the other setbacks like on Carlisle? Did you take a look at that?
Yeah, I have them listed.
Okay.
It's right down here, so we can actually see it. Oh, really? Okay. No, it's here. Look at David's. We gotta be careful with the paper, though. All right, so on Carlisle, immediately next door is 19 feet and 28, 25, 25, 25 on those newer homes. 23, and then the last one at the end, I believe I had it 6.
Okay.
At the other corner lot.
Where is that?
That's on the corner of Central, let me, get my thing here. Yeah. That is right here,
Oh, he doesn't have it.
right here. So I just went down this side of Carlisle.
Directly across Carlisle. What's the setback on that one?
It's 6 feet,
6 feet.
yes. So like the corners of each lot, this is the one here on Central and Carlisle that is conforming. But the other ones here, here and here on Homer, here and here on the other side of Homer, and directly across the street are all non-conforming.
I actually, just one additional question, and it's actually for our attorney, which is, I would say that they should, maybe, or the board should evaluate this under a C2 criteria versus C1, because the hardship is something that was created by the subdivision. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think your stronger argument is the C2 argument. Under the C1, the narrowness of the lot was created by virtue of the subdivision. So it's tough to argue that it's related to the physical characteristics of the land when in fact they were created by this owner or the predecessor title, I don't know who it was.
Right,
Yes.
but I think the board could evaluate what I think you're saying, is that this creates a better zoning alternative?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, having a house that fits in the neighborhood is definitely a better zoning alternative than providing a 17-foot wide house that looks like an albatross.
Those are my only questions.
Any members of the board have any questions for this witness? Any Anybody from the public have questions for this witness? Please step forward, state your name, address.
Is this okay? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
if you can go over by the microphone there. Sandra, it's recorded.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Booth, and I live at 38 Hawthorne Avenue, directly across the street from this lot, and I've lived there for 44 years. I just want to preface my questions, I have several, because the lot next to me was an illegal subdivision that was built upon like 30-some odd years ago, and it is a misfit house in the neighborhood. And several variances were given at the time, and as a result, the house was built higher than mine, so my basement flooded. I eventually had to put in a second sump pump, French drain, and the town required me not to pump any more sump water out to the street, which many of my neighbors still do, and I had to put some pipes across the lawn, across my entire property, underneath my driveway, into the storm drain next door to me. This was considerable cost for me. And this was a result of variances being given to a builder and built a house that doesn't fit in my neighborhood at all, and they were given a lot of variances.
Ms. Booth, can I just stop you there? Just the proceedings, you'll have a chance to make a statement and
Okay.
everything at the end. Right now, it's questions for this
Okay.
person.
I just wanted to preface.
No, I understand.
I do have questions.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Let me ask Mr. Stern, is this your only witness?
This is-
Okay.
Yes, this is my only witness.
so I listened to the variance request. I'm not quite sure I understand why it has to be that way. Where is the front door to this house? On Carlisle or?
On Hawthorne.
On,
On Hawthorne.
okay, because you were talking about the variances coming in from Carlisle.
So technically, by zoning, there's two front yards. The front door of this house, which is more common for the layman to understand, is gonna be facing Hawthorne. So the front of the house, as you would see it, and I would see
Right
it,
across the street.
right across the street will meet the required setback.
Could I ask you just to flip your drawing over again, so you can show where the
So I
front
haven't
door is
seen
on the,
any of this.
well, it's
Good suggestion.
I also would like to know what the square footage would be of the house. The proposed square footage.
I don't know, it's 46 by 21, I think. You have it?
Because when you say fit into the neighborhood, my house is sitting next to a house that doesn't fit into the neighborhood at all, and I've had obviously considerable problems over
Excuse
the
me, you
years.
just have to go near the microphone, I apologize.
And while you're looking for that, is it, two
Okay.
floors?
You know,
Hold
if you could just stop
one
for a
second.
second, so, because there's only a single witness, and you're sort of giving some testimony and then sort of asking questions, let me just swear you in, so would you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth of the matter and before the board?
Yes.
Okay, everything you've said thus far has been truthful, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so proceed, so that we don't try and mess up your flow here.
Right.
Okay, it's just that I've had a terrible experience already,
That's fine.
so, and,
And you're entitled to ask the questions, so
Yes.
you certainly
okay,
can
Please
do
do.
and
it.
the slope, the whole water problem, we're also having water pipes done right now, but the slope of the lot goes right towards my house. So I've already had considerable water problems from the house next door being built up my property, and the runoff comes down that slope.
Mhm.
So I'd like to know about the grading as well. What's the grading gonna be like for this house?
It will be
Because
great,
it's sloped, the whole thing goes like this,
and,
a lot, right towards my house.
and we are not changing that, but what we are doing is picking up roof leaders and all the impervious areas on site and directly connecting it to the storm drainage in the street. So it doesn't run overland past the border of the property. There is an inlet right here on this corner, right? So all the roof leaders and drainage from all this area will go down to this inlet. It will not make it to anything, it runs up the driveway, will come down and into this inlet.
I'm
So-
on my water table, the water comes underground. So,
Well, I I believe this is going to pipe it to a discharge point at some point, and the community is not going to recharge into the ground next to your house. So, I think that this should actually improve the drainage on that. We're picking up everything here and directly collecting it as opposed to having it go to the gutter first.
Gosh, I'd like to believe you.
Okay, well, you can.
Square footage, you figured that out?
I have between the house and the garage, I have 1,746 square feet of building coverage.
Okay. Can I ask a question about the half-dead tree that's on the property?
On your
The town
property?
tree, no, on this property.
I don't really have an answer for you as to
Okay.
what it's about, but it probably will be taken down if it is half dead and in the way of construction. No?
Can I say something about the half-dead town tree?
You can also make a statement at this point if you're done with your questions.
So let's make sure we get all your questions answered, please.
Oh, how many stories?
2.5.
But we don't know if that's gonna be built.
Well, hold on, let the witness answer the
What's
question.
the half?
So it's, the plan we have in front of us is a conforming 2.5-story house. So what this approval will do is the developer could come in, who buys the lot, and will make him in with a slightly different style house. But it'll have to meet every setback and every coverage limitation of every variance that's approved by this board. It can't get 1 inch closer to the street for the garage or for the house.
What is the half-story?
So, in the zone code, it's 2.5 stories. So, it's like an attic where you can go up and maybe it has ceiling height where you could put something up there, where you could actually walk up there.
How high is this house?
27.6 feet, where 35 feet is permitted.
Okay. Okay, and, please excuse my ignorance, but are the variances being requested because there's a house proposed to be built, but the lot is not big enough, so the variances are to fit the house on the lot?
So, the town ordinance requires a front yard setback of 25 feet.
Right.
We have 2 front yards, one for Carlisle and one for Hawthorne. If I was to apply that ordinance exactly the same, that where it says 14.5, that would be 25 feet, that would be over here. So you would have what appears to be a 2.5-story trailer across the street from you, which would not be attractive. So that's why,
That was next to me.
and you don't want another.
No, I know. That's part of the.
Yeah, so this is a normal home that would be built, and it just needs relief to make this 14.5 feet setback as opposed to 25.
With 39 being over here, how is 39 up here and then this is, this,
This is 39, see this right here, see this right here? This is the house.
so this is closer to the street, where the front door is gonna be.
The front door is here,
Right,
but the stairs coming down to it would be, in front of that.
okay, so it's closer to the street than 39 is.
The house itself is,
Yeah.
no,
No.
it's,
Is that
actually,
limited?
it's a, 39 is technically 1/10 of a foot closer to the street than what we're proposing.
Okay, I'm just trying to visualize this.
Sure.
Look, I've lived there for 44 years, I've seen a lot, I know these people, I knew their mother, but I have a misfit house next to me that caused a lot of problems over the years.
I understand.
So, this changes the look of the neighborhood,
Hopefully for the better.
okay? Well, I don't know about that, we'll have to see,
Well, yeah.
visually we'll have to see. Can I make a statement about the town tree?
Certainly.
And this is the end of my rambling here. There are 2 town trees on this lot. There's one here and there's one here. The one here is half dead. The town has come out periodically to trim the dead side. The side that isn't dead hangs over all the wires And Mrs. Miller used to call the town regularly to have this cut down on the healthier side, and it is a tragedy waiting to happen. It's right over, this tree hangs over all the wires going into 39, but if it brings those wires down, we're all out of luck.
Okay, excuse
So-
me, I can say something because I'm the secretary to the Shade Tree Commission. Okay, so all the memos would come in to us, and I don't know how many, I can't say that they didn't call. But if any of the branches are going over the wires, the owner of the property has to call JCP&L, and they will come out. That's the only thing, we don't call JCP&L. So whoever owns that property, I don't know what address it is.
Mrs. Miller did, many times.
Okay, so you're in charge to call JCP&L and ask them to trim the lines that are over the wires.
Okay, it's just
Okay.
been like that and it's getting
And
worse.
I'll actually do another memo for these trees, okay?
Can I say something about
Okay.
trees?
Thanks for your answer. I'm still not a town person.
But we're getting on the subject now.
Is there any else from the public have comments or questions for this witness?
Okay, would you step up, please? Would you go over by the microphone? Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and the matter pending before the board?
Yes,
State your name and address.
Suzanne Lee.
Address.
I live on One White Birch Road in Marsh Township.
She's my
Yeah. In regard to these trees, my mom never wanted them there. She tried many times. She used to have natural trees along there that the town insisted she take down that were set further back. Anyhow, water under the bridge. She didn't want these trees here. She called many times to have them trimmed. People didn't come out the last time they came out. There was an injury on the property from one of the people that was actually cutting the tree down. So we don't give a hoot if we would prefer these trees weren't there. So.
All I'll do
tree's
is
not
I
the
can do a
problem.
memo, but again,
Yeah,
the branches that are over the wires, you have to call JCP&L yourself.
can the entire tree come down, Karen?
I don't know if it can. All I can say is that they would go out after the pruning was done by JCP&L and see if the tree is dead. They're not gonna take down the line tree.
Because essentially what they were saying to my mom is, you don't own those trees anymore.
Well, it's town property. That's, that strip right there, whatever it is the 10 feet, I believe, from the property, you know, from the curb to the
It's town property, but the town won't take care of them.
They do take care of them, and the only way we can take care of them is if we get a memo or phone
I
call.
think the chairman wants to say something.
Yeah, so I appreciate the trees and I understand fully. That's not our jurisdiction,
No.
so, if you
But I
guys
don't
wanna
want
work
that
with
I don't want
Karen.
that to cause
No, that's fine.
unnecessary issue.
I'm gonna restate, so for, what we're here for tonight is for 2 variances that we heard testimony on our professionals have opined as well. There's 2 variances for this property. I sympathize with what you're talking about, the other property, I can't speak to that, but all I can talk about is this property is asking this board to grant 2 variances on the front yard variance under what I'm assuming is the C2 criteria.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's what we're here to get testimony.
So maybe I'll follow up with Karen and get.
Yeah, with regard to the trees, that's not part of this application,
Thank you.
but there'll be, I'm sure you can have follow-up conversations. And even to the, we're not getting a steep slope variance. They're not asking for any of that. So as it is today, there are 2 variances that we will be voting on. So with that said, is there any other comments and or questions for this witness?
And we should just note for the record that Ms. Cortez is here.
I did,
Oh, you did, okay.
well, I know you did time of arrival at 30.
But you can't. So okay, seeing none, I'm gonna close the public comment question this time, and I'll ask Mr. Stern if he wants to make a closing
Yes, so,
statement.
yep. In summary, I think Mr. Anderson adequately and concisely explained the rationale for why these variances should be approved, and we're asking the board to approve them this evening under C2.
Okay, now I'll ask the board member, we do all our deliberations out in public, so there's nothing, since it's all transparent, so I'll open up to the board for their comments and or questions on this application. Lisa, you're up. You can.
I'll go first. Seeing the design of the property, understanding how it is a double corner lot, I can understand the challenges faced with setbacks for that. I like the fact that the front facing Hawthorne is conforming. I like the fact that it's, whenever this home is built, that it will look, if you go down Carlisle, it'll look appropriate for the rest of the properties on that street. I don't think that the house that you're trying to build is too big for the, I know that's not part of variance, but just part of the flavor of the application. I think that the garage, while needed, we need to put a garage there, so it's an appropriate sized garage for the lot.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Just a question slash comment for Bill. So, typically, sometimes we do these applications and there's a lot of discussion. We spend time on the engineering aspects, right? Because we're just talking about two variances, those aren't being addressed here. But things like drainage, right, and adequate drainage for the property will be addressed once construction permits are submitted and the house is being built.
Correct. There's no, the grading and drainage plan is not intrinsic to the zoning issue here. The plot plan, the lot development plan is part of the construction process and that operates by normal process at the construction permit phase. We look at all of that.
Just wanted to, for the members of the public that are here and express concern about it, those are not things that we address here tonight, but they are part of the regular construction planning process, okay, that adequate drainage is constructed, among other elements, when the house is actually built. But I agree with Dan overall. I think the applicant did a good job in terms of sizing an appropriately sized house for the neighborhood and keeping things in conformance, I think, with other elements you see in the neighborhood. So, and we look at the C2 clause here, that, one or more purposes of the zoning is advanced by the deviation, and the benefits outweigh any detriments. I do think that hurdle has been met here.
Do I have a motion?
Before there's a motion, let me just go what I think would be our conditions. A number of these are standard conditions. One, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall post an engineering inspection escrow in amount to be determined by the Borough Engineer. Number two, submission of proof of payment of all real estate taxes applicable to the property and payment in a timely fashion by the applicant of all outstanding and future fees and escrow charges in connection with review of this application prior and subsequent to approval of this application. 3, the applicant shall comply with all borough ordinances, rules, and regulations that are applicable to this development application, and is required to obtain all necessary permits, including but not limited to certificates of occupancy, certificates of habitability, construction permits, and zoning permits. 4, the foregoing approval is subject to the review of approval by and requirements imposed by all federal, state, county, and local bodies that have jurisdiction over the relief sought in this application. 5, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the board shall certify in writing that there are sufficient funds to cover all charges by the board professionals. 6, the applicant shall be bound by all representations made on her behalf and by her attorney. 7, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall submit an as-built plan to the Borough Engineer for review and approval. 8, and the next couple of these are from the Ms. Leheny's memo, the variance plan shall be revised to show the size and location of a utility structure, including AC units on the lot to ensure compliance with both regulations. And finally, condition 9, sheet A 2.1 of the architectural plans, which do not show access to the proposed walk-in closet and bathroom from either the master bedroom or the hallway, shall be corrected to accurately reflect the architectural design and ensure proper access. Mr. Ryden, anything that I missed or you want to correct?
Nothing that you missed. I would be careful about that last condition, and that would imply that we've analyzed that plan of the house for.
You suggesting perhaps we remove that condition?
That's what I suggest.
Liz, you okay with that?
That's fine.
So if there is a motion to grant the 2 front yard setback variances, that would be subject to those conditions that I just outlined.
I move to grant the variances with the subject conditions.
I'll second that.
Karen, call the vote.
Okay. Mr. Rosas?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Basso?
Yes.
And Mr. Cianciata?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cortez?
No,
It's not eligible.
she's not
She's
eligible.
not eligible, but she just abstained?
She wasn't here for the testimony.
She's not eligible, that's just
Okay,
Barbara's
not
not
eligible
eligible,
at
she's
all.
only here
Okay.
for a small bit of testimony.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
so the next meeting, there'll be a resolution.
And the revised architectural plans will be when somebody submits construction preference, correct? Just make sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Moving on, do we have any correspondence and bills?
Yes, we do. I have purchase order number 202-50784, Distinguished William and Sullivan, 571 Thompson Avenue, Cedarville, New Jersey, 07009, for professional services in the amount of $306.25.
Is there a reading? Wants to do a motion?
It does.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Do we have any new business? Old business, I'll just say that, again, Dave passed out the new applications. If anybody has any feedback, if we can send it over. it'd be great.
Can you sign it also after
Sure.
Thank you.
Maybe a future meeting, especially if we have a later agenda for the old business, we have a discussion.
Yes. I think that's Dave's intent as well. But he wants us to come with ideas or sign off if we will. But I think he put together some good stuff. I know Liz had provided information a while ago to look at things which are helpful. But the intent obviously really makes sense, right? I've been, in the 10 years I've been on the board, I've heard concerns, complaints about, the way it runs and, especially for like, for a front. It shouldn't take this long to do this one. Anyway, that's, Dave, we appreciate that. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, let's get it. Good, we're out.
Second by
Second by, Mike. All right, we're out. 8:15, yeah.
Good job, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Um,
What am I saying?